Robert Vane was not a difficult man to find. His paintings hung in 3 national galleries. A print of his 2019 landscape, The Fell in February, had sold over 40,000 copies and ended up on the walls of people who had never heard his name, which was exactly the kind of fame he found both flattering and faintly embarrassing. Critics called him the quiet giant of British landscape painting. Interviewers asked him what it felt like to move people. He always said he didn't know, which was true, and they always printed it as modesty, which it wasn't. He had a small studio in the back of his house in Leeds, a kettle that took too long to boil, and 30 years of work behind him, celebrated, collected, reviewed, and framed. All of it, until now, slightly false. The painting had taken 8 months. It was a real place. Rolling hills in the last light before a storm, the sky a deep bruised amber, the fields below still. A single dirt path cutting through the center and disappearing over a ridge. No figure on the path. That was deliberate. The path was not about anyone. The path was about the leaving. He hadn't planned for keep months, but the landscape had its own ideas. You didn't invent a landscape. You found it, slowly, the way you find your way through fog. When he finally set down his brush, he didn't feel triumph. He felt recognition, like seeing someone across a room and realizing you'd been looking for them for years without knowing their face. He sat on the floor and cried. He hadn't cried since Margaret's funeral. He hadn't planned to cry now. 3 days later, he buried it. His neighbor Cressida watched from over the fence. She waited and think before she spoke.
Why, Robert?
Because the moment anyone sees it, it stops being mine. Someone will write about what it means. Someone will put a price on it. And I'll stand in a room full of people nodding at it, and I'll know the thing they're nodding at isn't the thing I made.
You have fans, Robert. People who genuinely love your work.
I know. That's the problem. They love the version of me that knows how to give them something. This one, I don't know how to give this one away.
So you destroyed it.
I kept it. There's a difference.
The news got out. It always does. The art world, which had been largely kind to Robert Vane for 2 decades, turned on him with the particular ferocity reserved for people who were expected to be grateful. Collectors who owned his work felt obscurely cheated. Galleries that had made money on his name issued careful statements about artistic responsibility. A journalist who had once called him a national treasure now called it intellectual cowardice. Another piece, more generous, more confused, called it the most interesting thing a British painter had done in a decade. Robert thought that was probably both a compliment and an insult, and therefore accurate. He didn't read much of it. He had already started a new canvas. His daughter Mara came in a few days later, 31, sensible, built bridges for a living. She had always been slightly baffled by her father, in the fond way children are baffled by parents who live in a different key. She sat across from him at the kitchen table and said,
"Just tell me the actual reason, not the art version."
Your mother used to say she could always feel the audience in my work, even the personal pieces. She said I arranged things, made the sadness presentable, the way you tidy a room before someone comes, even when they've told you not to bother. She wasn't wrong. Years of work, reviewed, collected, loved, and most of it shaped, trimmed. I always knew someone would see it, and that knowing changed what I was willing to leave in. That one, I didn't think about that, and when I finished it, I couldn't tell you what it meant. That frightened me, and that's how I knew it was true.
So you buried it because it was too honest.
I buried it to keep it honest.
She came back 2 weeks later. She didn't call ahead. She just appeared at the door on a Saturday morning and said,
I want to see it. I need to see what she waited 30 years for.
He looked at her for a long moment. She had Margaret's eyes. She always had. All right, he said. They dug it up on a Saturday morning, fresh grass on the ground, the morning light bright. He drew the canvas from the tube slowly and unrolled it flat on the garden table. Maura said nothing. She stood in front of it, the bruised amber sky, the fields, the dirt path climbing toward a ridge, and then simply disappearing. She leaned forward, hands on the table edge.
Where does it go?
I don't know.
You painted it.
I know. She looked at him then. Really looked, the way she hadn't in years.
Mum walked that path.
She said. Not a question. He didn't answer, but his jaw moved slightly. She looked at the painting one last time, then at him. Something in her face settled.
She waited 30 years for you to make something honest.
They rolled it back, put it in the tube, buried it again. She left at dusk. He stood in the garden after she'd gone, hands in his pockets, over the mound of dark earth. He had buried it to protect it. The garden was quiet. Somewhere above the clouds, the sky was doing something amber and enormous that nobody could see. That was all right. Some things didn't need to be seen to be true.